Okay. This is Jim the Keys bartender. I'm back. And that okay was me telling myself everything's okay. Not that anything bad happened. I'm getting shit done today. It's my day off. It was great. It's great so far. Made it to the gym. Didn't really eat little bits of food today. I'm not trying to lose weight. I just don't eat as much as I used to. I'm going to have a huge dinner, though, tonight. That's how I treat myself. And a big dessert. But I had things to do with the car. I had to research a application for a state-issued identification, which I won't go into too in-depth. But I had a problem the first time, and now it seems to be replicating itself. Whenever I go to the website, I have a hard time progressing. And it looks like I filled in all the spaces, but I guess I have to do something a little different. And I'll find out a little later what that is. And yesterday I started introducing myself as the Keys bartender at WKBS. KBBS. WKBBS? Is that it? Keys bartender. That's 5 letters. You can't have 5 letters. Keys bartender shit. So WKBS. For the BBS, that'd be 5 letters. No one has 5 letters, right? I can say it because we're not on public airwaves. You know? There could be a W. I'm sure there's a WKBS. It's probably in Kenosha or something like that. Oh, Kenosha doesn't have a B in it. But I'm sure there is one out there. And I apologize. I apologize for what I've said, disparaging your call letters. But there's all sorts of, there's got to be multiple ones. Right? There's thousands of radio stations out there. I don't know. So some of the things I did today, the wife's car had a headlamp out. And it was a bulb. And it's on one of these Chevys, and you got the battery right against the headlamp. And the headlamp is assembly now. It used to be years ago. When I was a kid, they used to have a candle in there. Or, you act like it's Flintstones. No, it was a whole headlight would come out. It was high beam, low beam, and one big bulb you put in there. Now they have the little light going inside the assembly. And they sell the assemblies, you could replace the whole assembly, but why replace the whole assembly if it's just a bulb, right? And then you got 3 different grades of light bulbs to put in. And I went to the store. First what I do is I Google how hard is it to change. Well, how do you change a headlamp bulb in a Chevy Equinox in a year? And what happens is they give you a video and they show this woman, and it looks deceptively easy when they do it. And it was. In this case, it was easy. As easy, if not easier, than what they said. And I thought I screwed it up because there's no way it could have been that easy. It looked like I had to remove the battery in order to get to the bulb, but what you had to do was just turn the wheels all the way to the right to get in the left side. And then the assembly's right there. For one of the things, man, that is just weird. They make it easy. It's really easy. Matter of fact, I go through an access cover, and then there's another access cover. You turn counterclockwise. You take a little screw out of the first access cover, but it's all twist and remove counterclockwise. And then you have a bulb. Now, I didn't realize that you need gloves. I saw the person using gloves when they're putting on it. They always use gloves. I wonder why the case for that. And they said with halogen bulbs, I guess the oil in your hands does something to it. So they said, or maybe it's bad for your hands. Who knows? Or it's either bad for the bulb or bad for your hands. Either way, I'm good with the bulb, or at least they use a towel. And I'm not that adept, so I would use a glove. Those rubber surgical gloves. But once I got the screw out, And once I did it, I was ready. It was so deceptively easy. I was almost stopped and went back to YouTube and said, no way. Then I put it back in, snapped it into the assembly, put the covers on, and it one of the few times something I did worked the first time. I'd have to say one of the few times. Majority of the time when I do it, it does work out. When it's apparent that that's the problem. You know, some things are kind of shaky. You don't know what it is. That's why it's nice to have a diagnostic tool when you have a warning light come on. You can just go to one of these car places and you ask for an ODB. I don't even know what that stands for. You plug it in, you get the code. You can Google the code, find out what it is. I've done it on other cars. I've done it on this. I had this 1996 Sebring convertible, and it was just going flat when I nailed the gas. When I really pressed down on the gas, it was just kind of flood the engine for some reason. And I just couldn't figure out. It just kind of real puts out. So I had taken it to a couple dealerships, not being smart enough to go and get a diagnostic tool and check it myself. Finally, when it happened, I said, shit, I'm going to find out what it is. These guys aren't going to get a couple $100 from me again. I went there. It was a $50 piece of, it was an atmospheric pressure sensor. I think that's what it was called. It took me all of 5 minutes to put it in, and it worked like a charm afterwards. So after that, I always diagnose what's on the car first to see if I can fix it. If it's brakes and all that shit, I mean, some people can do brakes. I can't do brakes. I don't do oil changes. I don't do brakes. I know a lot of people do their own oil changes. I'm not that confident or ambitious, but I'm good with light bulbs and fuses and some electronics, batteries, resetting, shit like that. But when you go into one of these car supply places, they can almost smell it that you don't know what you're doing. I went in and during a YouTube video, it said get an H11 bulb, and I got an H11, and I walked up and asked, hey, does this work in this model year of this car? And they go, yeah. And he says, oh, this is going to be bright. You got the good one. Because they started at 19 and went up to like 18, 20, and 25. So I went and got 25. It was for my wife's car. So, and he says, you know, they only put the basic ones in their cars. So this one was going to be brighter. I said, does it violate any laws having too bright a headlight? I mean, it's not like you're going to be flooding like those new goddamn lights that people have that blind you each time. Another call. I know, it's so funny. I look at it, you know, oh, this is the person. I think, okay. So, this is the person. Like, you know what I'm talking about. I had gotten a call, remember, in a previous episode, and I didn't pick it up. And it turned out they left a message, and they sent me a text message. And they wanted me to do a signing, but they want me to bring a witness to the signing. So I'm going to get to that in a moment, but I'm going to finish. So I go into the auto supply place, and I ask the guy, an older man, said, does it work? He said, yeah, it does. It's going to be a little bright, blah, blah, blah. But they almost know. He says, you know what? And then he says to me, hey, you got to wear a glove when you put in a halogen bulb. You know that, right? And they go, I do now. Because I just thought they were using it so they wanted to keep their hands clean. But it turns out there's a reason why they use the gloves. It's funny. I didn't know that. Now I know. I'm glad that guy helped me. I'm not too proud about that. But I think I have a modicum of understanding. Oh, as a kid, I used to rebuild my distributor cap and do all different shit. Did the timing belt, or replace belts and all that shit, and hoses, fenders. But nowadays, you know, it's so complicated. You got to really use a diagnostic tool, and then you got to. I mean, I bet a lot of the mechanics, when they get a car and stuff like that, they got to take. I got to take 10 minutes and look at this YouTube video, see what I got to do next, right? Because they're all different. There's so many different cars. that's why electric cars are going to be so, just change mechanics. It's going to change the nature of it. I can see why they may not want it, because there's really, anybody can replace, if you make it easy enough, almost anybody can replace a fuse or a light bulb or anything like that. But you don't want to violate your warranty. But I feel a little manlier when I do something like that. On to the next thing. The call I got. You heard I got this signing. I'm a notary, and I do these loan signings. And they need a notary. They figured it'd kill two birds with one stone. You got to get it signed. You got to get it notarized. You don't bring two people. You just get a notary who knows how to do a presentation of a large loan document. Right? Some of these loan documents are a couple hundred pages long. And some of them have 20 signatures, and you got to notarize them and all that stuff. So with the advent of the the online applications, a lot of these places have loan signing services, they call them, and notaries sign up for them, and they send them jobs. And what someone does is they say, we got $250 for this job. You get a notary for me. And they'll offer, I don't know what they take at it. They may take 50, they may take 75, but the prices are kind of low. It's just like anything on the internet. It's like an Uber driver doesn't make as much as a taxi driver, because Uber has to get its cut. And I realize they got to make a profit. I realize they have liability and things like that. And they provide certain services and stuff like that, like marketing and all that stuff. And a lot of times people wouldn't be drivers if it wasn't for them. But you have a choice to take the job from them. Well, I'm sorry, I'm eating. I've been going all day. So, I did the podcast earlier, a live podcast. Now I'm doing this. So I get these jobs. And some of them could be, it says Key Largo. I would say, is it Key Largo? Is it in Ocean Reef? And you go, why do you ask if it's in Ocean Reef? Because it takes me a half hour to get up there. A half hour back. And sometimes you can wait 10, 15 minutes to gate, and the speed limit's 15 miles an hour. So if it's, it could take you 12 minutes to get across this property. So altogether, you spend an hour and a half driving. And it's a pain in the ass. So a lot of times people don't want to deal with it, because you think you're in the same town. It's a small town. There's only 10,000 people here. Thinking, how big can it be? Not like Texas. We have there's very few towns like that. This one is long. From the beginning, from south to north, it is, what's it around? 100, mile marker 118, and it goes down to mile marker 97. So it's about 20 miles. For a small town, that is a lot of driving. And you can get stuck. There could be an accident. You could spend hours. So this particular job, it's decent money in town and stuff like that, but they want a witness. They want you to provide a witness. So I have to bring me and someone else. So I'm thinking, and you offer a certain amount of money. And the money isn't that great, considering it's going to, travel time's an hour and a half if I had to go to Ocean Reef. And I may have to spend 2 hours up there. And it's not like they could just take off, because anybody that's available 11 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday isn't someone that works, or, in the restaurant business. If someone's working in a restaurant business, they're used to making $200, $300 a day. No one, they're not going to take $25 for 3 hours just sitting around, unless they really want to spend time with you. And actually, I'm kind of weird that way, because if someone's that eager to spend time with me to go on a signing, I really wouldn't want to spend time with them, because that couldn't be fun. It's got to be boring as shit. Sitting there going over loan documents, stuff like that, kind of exciting for me, because if I screw up, especially one of those big things, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars I screw up. That's what makes it exciting. It's kind of slightly dangerous. Not devil may care, but It is what it is. So it's hard to find someone for that amount of money that's willing to take, say, well, how long is it going to take? I don't know. And if I got to take them miles away, like if I can get them to meet me there and say, listen, I just need you there for 20 minutes to witness the signing and the signatures, whatever needs to be witnessed. And then you could go. And that could be as little as like 2 or 3. I don't know. So I have to do it. And it's tough to find somebody. It's not like I have someone on standby. If I was one of those bail bondsmen and stuff like that, you had a bounty hunter. You have them on standby, but they make $500,000 for each collar. That's not what happens here. So I'm going to have to get off the phone. I have to get on the phone and tell them and say, listen, I have a plan, and I'm telling my plan. But these signing services, they try to send me down to Key West. And I research a job, and it's $50. Well, it takes 2 to 3 hours to get down to Key West. Easy. It's 100 miles away. And you're sending traffic, yeah, it's 3 hours. And if there's an accident, it could be any crazy amount of time you want. It could be 5 hours. And that's your whole day. You're done. You drive 200 miles down here, you're done. It's not like driving 200 miles in Nebraska where you go at 80 miles an hour. Yeah, you could do that in like 2.5 hours. No problem. But down here, you've got places where you're going 35. When it's traffic jam, you're going 10 miles, 5 miles an hour. Shit. And people say, well, why wouldn't they know? People don't realize. Well, they see the Keys and they think, well, how far is it? Down to Key West. So you see, those little, no one pays attention to mile markers on the highways anymore except truckers. That's where you tell yourself where you are on the highway. But down here in the Keys, I'm reiterating maybe for the 20th time I've done this, it starts at mile marker 126 when you leave Florida City and get on Overseas Highway and go into the marshes and all that stuff there. And it ends at mile marker 0. And mile marker 0 is Key West. And you see Key West, and you'll see mile, and you'll see 0. That's it. It's mile marker 0 on Route 1. Now, obviously, it's a couple miles. You got like 3 miles of Key West when you get in and go into town. But that's significant. How many places say you send someone 100 miles? Say, well, you got to go there, do something for like an hour, and then you got to fax a bunch of stuff back to us. I'm not bitching. People just don't know the geography. It's most of it's an automated service. They get a job and they send it out and they send out the bid to all these people. What they should do is send out a bid to people that live in Key West. Or maybe they're hoping that someone's going to be down there in Key West and say, hey, maybe they need $50. All right? But a lot of people don't pick it up, and they got to I imagine a lot of people wouldn't pick up the bid, and they would just have to resubmit with a different price criteria. I don't know, but that's the stuff doing. It's better. I always enjoy when I'm talking directly to the person this way, to the person that's doing the hiring, whether it's the title company or a real estate company that's coordinating it, because they're the ones paying and there's no one taking money out of it. If they're taking money out of it, it's money out of their deal. But what you do is have people, they go to these services, they pay the services less money, and the services offer less money to these signers. I'm not bitching about that because they don't force you to take the job. You don't have to take the job. They could probably stop calling you if you don't take the job, but after a while, when you look at it, they got to realize, wow, you go in the Keys, a lot of people don't take the jobs. You know why? Because it's fucking expensive down here. I'm not trying to keep you coming down here, but it's expensive to live down here. And it takes time to get around. Just because you're in county, and it's kind of a rural county, If you think about it, considering Florida, it's what do we have, 60, 70,000 people living in the Keys? It's probably cost 100 miles. Less than a mile wide most of the time. Some places only a couple hundred yards wide. That's inhabited. I mean, there's places that are only, it seemed to be about 100 yards wide that have houses lying in there. That's it. And strung up there. So that's it. I'm done bitching. I'm sorry. It was a wonderful day. I got that done, and I'm probably going to try to do another thing and then get the cooking done. And I'm not much of a cleaning person. I'm sorry, I'm eating too because I didn't get it. But I love getting shit done. I'm a procrastinator that feels great accomplishment in getting things done. And hopefully I get that done. I can get that stuff done because my daughter is on her senior trip or whatever, grad night, graduating from 8th grade. A thing you took for granted. Graduating from 8th grade when I was a kid that's the minimum. You have kindergarten graduations, you have 8th grade graduations, high school graduations. High school graduation. Well, I guess we made a big deal somewhat a big deal, graduating from high school, which 98% of the people who go to high school graduate. Some take a couple extra years. Some get GEDs, but they end up graduating. College graduation. That's a bigger deal. Even then, most people that go to college graduate, not, and depend on what kind of group you're in. If you're partying and stuff like that, you may have a higher rate of dropping out of college. And then I guess the pinnacle is like no one has parties for people that get their master's degree or their doctorate. I guess as much if you become a medical doctor, you don't really need a party because your life's a party. Once you get to bill someone a couple $1,000s for 3 hours worth of work, that's awesome, right? No, I'm not bitching about that. They study really hard, I understand. And you heard in previous shows me talk about nepotism in the medical fields. Because there's a lot of doctors, children of doctors who become doctors. And it should be more merit-based than who you know when it comes to doctor. You want someone with skills, right? It brings me to leadership. You ever get that thing when you're going to work and someone's gotten promoted that you knew really well, you knew at work, and for some reason you realize they really don't have the temperament for that. A lot of people, some of the places I work, they put me in charge and stuff like that. But I have a horrible temper sometimes. But when I'm in a leadership role, I watch my temper. I lose my temper when I'm not in a leadership role. I feel more responsible when I'm in a leadership role. I try to be, I guess, magnanimous. But I always, especially when I'm working with people that should know their jobs. When someone doesn't know their job, I try to be preemptive. Giving them what's expected today and things like that. When they know their job, I just say, this is what we have to accomplish today. Now get to it, right? And I do my job too. Usually I'm working while I'm asking someone to work. And that's the way I always thought. Like when you lead from the front. When I worked in catering industry and someone had a horrible accident, did something horrible in the bathroom, I would, many times I'd be in a suit or a tuxedo, and I would just change a little, put on some, plastic booties on my feet and some gloves, and go in there and say, listen, we got to clean this up. And I'd start it. And I always thought if you're going to show somebody, you don't ask them to do it, you say, it's not beneath me to do this job. It's not beneath you to do this job. Get it? Get it. Okay? So any job. Just go and do it. Show them how. It's not like telling someone to do a job. Showing them how to do the job and show them that you're willing to do the job. It's like officers in the military. Some militaries were very famous for that. Some of them were leading from the back. We have officers that lead from the back, stay out of harm's way, and shit like that. Now, you can still get fragged, and fragging is when the people underneath you say, hey, listen, we got guns here, so who knows if a bullet, accidentally takes this guy out. But if you're with your people when they're going into the shit, they have a tendency to admire that. At least that part. Why would you? Why would you listen to someone that said, well, I hired you to do this job, or I am managing you to do this job. That's not my job. So in the restaurant business, every so often at the end of the night, if the dishwashers particularly got overwhelmed, and this is me as a bartender, I go back there and say, do you need a hand? Is there something I can do? Do you want me to scrape dishes or it's camaraderie. And this is not as a leader. This is as a, So when you see you're volunteering doing that, people, you don't wait to be asked. You just do it. You say, oh, this person's getting a little overwhelmed. There's nothing like being supportive. And that's leadership. And so that's charismatic leadership, I think. And it's sadly lacking in a lot of people. Some people like to be leaders for the sake of being leaders, being on top. It's just like that thing you hear in Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. Well, I'm not saying you have great power as a manager, stuff like that. Some people couldn't manage their way out of it, and they're opposite of managers or leaders. They just bring you down. And there's technical leaders, people that really know their job well. They really know what to do and say, oh, we have to do this, we have to do that, blah, 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 blah. And they can be pretty good too, as they take their emotion out and say they know their jobs and say, well, this is what you have to do, blah, 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 and do this, do that. And someone who knows this job really well can be a good leader. But you have to be careful on how you take them, like leading from the front or leading from behind. And leading from behind is what kind of like what the Russian soldiers did during World War II. They had a conscript army, and sometimes the soldiers wouldn't fight. Or during World War I, it was more of a thing, where the officers had the sidearms, and the sidearms were to shoot their men. In a battle, a sidearm is good, because you're riding, you're issuing orders. They didn't carry rifles. When an officer carries a rifle, it says, because I'm shooting with them. But it's easier also to walk the line and guide people and stuff like that. But they had the sidearm to kind of protect themselves too from the men. It's harder to swing around with a rifle sometimes to shoot somebody. It's easier just pulling it if you're within a couple feet. There was a big thing during the French army and the Russian army. They would shoot the men if they wouldn't come and charge, let's say, a trench warfare. And he said they just see people dying in droves, and people say, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going across there. Or that's a direct order. You're telling someone that I'm die. That's when they sent the young officers in. They said, I'm leading the charge over some. And he always ran out of the youngest officers. But like I said, leading from the front, leading from the back. And then there's people that really don't know anything about their jobs other than, or the job is at hand, pretend to know their job's at hand, and pretend to have the experience to allow them to do the job. And they're the worst. They're the people that are unimaginative. They're not good listeners. They're not good communicators. And it happens a lot in the restaurant. A lot of restaurants. There's a lot of great workers out there. There's a lot less great managers out there. I worked with some great managers. Really great managers. I've been fortunate. But I've heard horror stories So I have to assume that there's been a lot of bad ones out there. I've had some bad ones, but I had to say the lion's share, totally the people I've worked with, and that's maybe why I took the job. I had a manager who wasn't really cut out for the job. He knew the job. He wasn't much. His personal skills weren't. When someone's really that expert in the knowledge of the job, sometimes people think it's a substitute for interpersonal skills, which they don't have. And a lot of people are lacking interpersonal skills. I'm kind of abrupt sometimes. I'm assuming that people can handle it. Say, hey, that wasn't. I try to alleviate these. People put salve on their wounds, soothe the fragile egos. I have a fragile ego. When someone comes up and says, hey, you didn't handle that really well. That's the way I am. It's hard to be great day in and day out. It really is hard to be great day in and day out. So a friend used to say, you have your moments of brilliance and stuff like that. And what you're hoping is that when you have a group of people, you have some people that are having successful days while other people don't have successful days. And it's just the way it is. It's a rare few that are always up. And the harder the job, the less it is likely that someone's always up. Just draining. Just draining on everything. I mean, everyone's had their bad days. One of the greatest athletes of all, Tom Brady, had bad games. He's thrown interceptions. You can't be on top all the time. I'm not comparing myself to Tom Brady or anybody really, but I'm just saying if you're average, it's easier to maintain average. You can fake average if you know your shit. You can just lay back and say, this is average and this is what I'm going to do because I'm able to do this, and at the end of the day, I'm happy with average. I'm not so happy with average. I like to be above. But the problem is when you do pour a lot of effort and emotion into a job, sometimes you get drained. And sometimes you're really not at average. Sometimes you end up in an argument with someone over something stupid. Like not wearing a mask when it clearly says wear a mask when you come in the door. Or someone says something, oh, I'm wearing a mask. Yeah, but you have to wear it over your face, not under your chin. And then you say, well, I am happy that you know where your pants should be on your lower part of your body. That's you did do that correctly. And they get angry at that. Who knows? They don't like to be condescended to. If you don't want to be condescended to, don't do something stupid. I do stupid things all the time. Oh, case in point, I went to get my hair cut today. This was great. I think it was great. I listen to podcasts. And one of my favorite ones is This American Life on NPR. It's an assortment of stories. They have a theme. And they send out journalists. And this story was, I think the person was doing a parody retelling of the creation myth, the Christian creation myth. I knew it was a Christian. It was Genesis. They were retelling Genesis, but they gave a lot of personality and question to a lot of description and conversation to Adam, Eve. What's the other one? The snake. And Adam, Eve, and the snake. But at one point, I'm walking in. I have my headphones on. Now, if you're not familiar with the wireless headphones, when you turn them off sometimes, if your phone will start playing the audio on the phone. So I sit down, and the person that cuts my hair is this Latina, a little younger than me, nice woman, Dolores. I'm sitting there. I sit at the, and she asked me how am I doing, and good. And all of a sudden, my phone pops on to the part I was listening to, This American Life. And This American Life is rarely a cutting edge story when it comes to, like, it's not risque, it's not R rated. But I just, as I was listening to they were retelling retelling of the Adam and Eve and Snake story. Adam and Eve was about to get it on with, Adam was about to get it on with Eve. And he was describing her breast and what their breasts were like and stuff like that. And the guy was saying it pretty much like, almost like that online, the autopsy thing on HBO, if you remember the show, Autopsy, or what was it, Medical Examiner, or something like that. And the person's reading this, and it's talking about her breasts felt like they were filled with jelly. And her legs, smooth legs, made this sound when they moved together and all this stuff. And I'm like, holy shit. And I'm listening. It's playing loud. And there's a woman that just had her, I guess she's having her hair color. She had this thing she sent at the side. And there's another woman in the corner. Hey, Jim, that sounds like you went to a salon. No, it's a salon barbershop. Half the people who go in there are men. You know, it's mainly a barbershop. So I'm sitting there, and it starts talking about milky breast and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, shit. You rarely, out of 100 podcasts, do they ever talk about that. 100 episodes of this particular podcast where there's over 800 episodes. You hear this, and it starts playing it at that point. I'm just sitting there trying to turn it off. And just looked at him. I said, you know, if I was a younger man, I'd be very embarrassed. But I was listening to the podcast, and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to ignore it. And it sounded like if I was them, I'm thinking, this guy is listening to a book on tape, and he's listening to them have sex. He's listening to a dirty book on sex. It wasn't that dirty. The guy didn't mention his dick, or there was no vagina talk or anything like that in there. So I let myself, I go like this. I used to be the kind of person that would be embarrassed by something like that. And this just happened, matter of 2 hours ago, right before I changed the headlamp bowl on my wife's car. But I was able to accomplish my haircut without being embarrassed. I didn't have to say anything because it was just a podcast. It was This American Life. So I'm just thinking, well, why would I apologize for that? Even if there was a kid there, they didn't say anything, you know. Well, I guess some people are funny about that stuff. But yeah, younger Jim would have been embarrassed by it. I don't know why. At this point, I'm thinking if you'd never heard breast and that people had sex together, then boo-hoo. I'm not going to lose any sleep on it. But they didn't get upset about it. They were fine. They were laughing. And I got my hair cut. Now I'm here. I'm able to do a podcast and talk about it right now. Listen, folks, if you are in Key Largo at mile marker 102, check out the Catch Restaurant and Bar. It's Bayside, 102, mile marker 102 Bayside. And if you do go there, tell them the Keys bartender sent you. It's open every day of the week. It didn't open yesterday. It was an emergency. That's different. But they have happy hour Monday through Friday, 3:30 to 6:30 with great happy hour drinks and some happy hour food. They have a great assortment of seafood and non-seafood dishes. They'll cook your catch. I had someone call the other day and they said, because of the name of your restaurant, do you have to bring in your own fish in order to have seafood there? And I said, no, not necessarily. So I thought that was nice. A nice question. But that was an interesting concept. I don't know how that would work out. Because what would you serve? It was like shitty weather out there and no one had any catch. Didn't have any fish to bring in. That'd be something. I mean, a restaurant and say, hey, listen, you bring your own food, we'll cook it for you. That would be. I bet it's a big world out there. There, mark my word, I will wager that there is one restaurant out there that says, we don't want to worry about heavy-duty refrigeration, but we will cook your food. Bring it in. We have bread. We have drinks. We have some desserts. Think of that. What a concept. And then you don't have to worry about refrigeration or losing anything. But then you have to worry about whether the person's bringing in food that's spoiled or not. But it's not their responsibility, is it? Huh? I mean, you could have salmonella and stuff like that controlled. You'd have to have some kind of waiver. Someone's going to fucking steal that, and they're going to be a billionaire now. But hey, you know what? I give it to you. Thank you for listening. If you like the show, please share it with your friends. Like us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. This is Jim the Keys Bartender at WKBS. Keys Bartender, Keys Bullshit. There you go. And I can't do KK. Keys. KKK. No, that wouldn't be bad. WKBS. It's not a radio, though. But everyone says you have a radio station. I'll talk to you later. Have a great day. Bye.